If you're just getting started with resistance bands, here are the top 4 things you need to know. Thing number 1, how does the resistance level work with bands? So they're different than free weights because the stretching of the band is what creates the resistance versus a free weight is using gravity to pull it back down to the earth and create resistance. So with that, we have a bunch of different sizes of bands. And at Clench Fitness, we sell loop style resistance bands. So we have 41-inch loops, we have 13-inch mini loops, but they function the same. The further that you stretch them, the more force that they put out. And of course, we have different sizes. Typically, they're all about the same thickness, and then we increase the width of the band, so there's basically just more band to create more resistance. Also, you can set these babies up in a couple of different ways to create resistance. So this method that I'm showing you right now, we call it the full length method, where you're just stretching this 41-inch band full length, right? So that's going to give you a certain resistance versus stretch curve. Obviously, it starts out light, and then the further I stretch it, the heavier it gets. Another thing that you can do is the doubled over method, where you fold this band in half. Now, I've basically doubled up this band, and it's gonna put out more resistance in less amount of stretch because you basically have the band folded in half. So that works for, you know, like if you do a row like I'm doing right now, or a deadlift, or even if you're doing like a bench press where the band is around your back. That is doubled over. And I'm gonna drop some links in the description below so that you can get to these bands on our website. And then also, I'm gonna drop a link to the resistance profile. So we basically have a couple of charts that show all of our bands and the resistance versus stretch for each one of those bands in the full length method as well as the doubled over method. So that will help you to choose the right band for what you're doing. This band is our red band, the 1/2 inch wide band, 41-inch length. The resistance range that we publish on the website is 15 to 35 pounds. What does that mean? So the bottom number, 15 pounds, is when you're in the full length stretch configuration and you're starting out with 41 inches of band lay flat, so there's no resistance at 41 inches. When you take it to 2 times its length, which is 82 inches, that means that you're gonna be getting that low number, the 15 pounds, right? So anything less than that is gonna be less than 15 pounds, but greater than 0. And then the high number, the 35 pounds, is when you take this band, double it over, fold it in half, and then you stretch it to 2 times its length. So now we are at half of 41 inches, so that, which is 20.5 inches. And then you're gonna go to twice its length, which is 41 inches, right? That's where it's gonna put out 35 pounds because we're doubled over and now we've stretched it to 2x that shortened length. Number 2 is always inspect your bands before use. We've all seen plenty of videos online, people getting snapped in uncomfortable areas with bands or band snapping and actually being like hurting people. We don't want that. So make sure you're inspecting your bands for nicks and cuts and tears on every usage. And what I like to do, this band's got a lot of miles on it. So you're gonna see some nicks and tears, like here's some nicks in the edges. This one's probably okay, but the biggest thing is when you start stretching this stuff and you see these nicks and tears and they start to like go through the entire band or like the whole edge, that's when you're like, all right, I'm gonna pump the brakes here and get this band replaced because it's at risk of snapping. The other thing that can help avoid this, and obviously like this one, we're still using it and it's even got nicks and tears and cuts and blah, 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 and we're still comfortable using it. That's because we know it's a very good band. Clench Fitness, we only sell high quality bands. And what makes a high quality band? The biggest thing is, there's 2 things. First thing is layers. You wanna have bands that are made from layers because when you get nicks and tears, it'll only be in that specific layer that it affects, and it won't propagate all the way through. So like the cheapo molded bands that you buy off Amazon, those are higher risk than a high quality layered band. Clench Fitness bands usually have around 30 to 40 layers in each band to help protect it from snapping. The other thing is material quality. We only use like 99, almost 100% pure natural latex, and that is basically because the natural latex will last the longest, and over tons of time and stretching and unstretching in environmental conditions, using pure materials will allow that band to last the longest and not get stretched out over time. Thing number 3, tension is key. So with free weights, when I pick up this 25-pound dumbbell, it's always 25 pounds because gravity is always turned on. So you don't really have to think about making sure that you have enough tension with free weights because it's just there, right? With bands, it's going to be a lot different, and you need to make sure that you have tension on the band, otherwise it's not doing anything. You're not putting any force out, you're not putting any load on your muscles, you're not gonna get hypertrophy, you're not gonna build strength. So that is why tension is key. And let me give you an example. I got this band anchored up here chest high. Let's do a chest fly, right? So I'm gonna load myself into this, and we see this a lot with first time users. They'll just kind of be like, all right, I'm gonna do a chest fly, right? I jump in and I'm going here, and they just start, kind of doing the rep. Well, in this position, you're getting some resistance, but you're not getting resistance until like halfway through the rep. As you can see, when I fully retract here, look at that slack in the band. It's flopping around, there's no tension there. So you absolutely need to make sure that when you're loading yourself into an exercise, you have enough tension at the bottom of the rep. And I'm not saying just like enough, because that's basically zero. Like you wanna have good resistance all the way through the rep. So step out into this thing, get some resistance, you have to like fight against it to load yourself into it. And then as you go through the rep, it's gonna get harder and harder because of that progressive resistance of the band. That is something that can be very difficult to grasp, but make sure that you're putting tension on these bands. And also that can really help you to figure out if you need to use the full length method, if you have a lot of range of motion in a given exercise. But if the range of motion is short and you're using the full length method, like for instance with this bicep curl, obviously here, I don't have any tension on the bottom of the rep. I don't get tension till here. So I need to find a way to take up slack. And that is why we've created a lot of the accessories at Clench Fitness to hook onto these bands, because it helps you to manipulate the band and get tension in the right range of motion. So I can literally just take this, wrap it around the handle a couple times, and that's gonna get me some more tension. Sometimes I might even need to do another wrap. And now I got a lot more tension. So when I stand up, boom, that's pulling my bicep into the fully lengthened position, and I have a decent amount of resistance at the bottom. And then as I go up through, it gets really difficult. That is the secret to building strength, gaining mass with bands. And it also applies just like you do with free weights, right? Every single week, you wanna be beating what you did last week, doing more resistance, building more strength, getting more hypertrophy. So you need to make sure that with these bands, every week, you are upping that resistance, trying to do more than you did last week. And it can be kind of challenging to do that because you don't really have a number system. Like with dumbbells and free weights, it's easy. You just slap on some more weight and then you know that you're doing more weight. With bands, you kind of got to do a couple of different things. The first thing that you can do is, stretch the band further. So like say I'm in this chest fly configuration, right? I can start out, maybe week 1 or whatever. I'm gonna start out here. I got decent resistance here. And then next week, I take another step out. That's gonna put more tension on the band. Now you're fighting against it. And if you can still do just as many reps as you did the previous week, that means you're gonna need more resistance no matter what. So then from there, you can step up to the next band. So you grab the next step up, which is the black band. And now we're doing more resistance. Add that black band, It's more resistance. It's gonna be harder to do. And we're getting more resistance, and you can step out and stretch it further to get even more resistance. Sometimes the step between bands can be a little bit too much, and that's why we use like our smaller bands. You can stack them together. So the orange band is the lightest band that we sell, and that one we love to stack with stuff. So if I can't do a black band, I could take a red band and an orange band, stack them together, and that's gonna give me just enough incremental resistance to be more than last week, but not too much that I can't handle it. And finally, thing number 4, bands are extremely versatile. So what do I mean by that? Most people, they'll start out with bands for like one specific thing. Whether they need help with their pull-ups, so they bought a pack of bands and they're doing assisted pull-ups. That's one application. Another thing, say you hurt your shoulder, you go to the PT office and they have you start using bands for shoulder exercises, and then you bring them home and then you have them, but you don't really know what to do with them. The applications with bands are endless. You can use them for assisted exercises, whether it's pull-ups or push-ups or dips. You can use them for rehab style exercises. You can also use them for mobility exercises, which is basically rehab, but mobility is just all-encompassing thing that you can literally use bands to become more mobile on every part of your body. The other thing that you can do is mimic gym exercises. So say you don't have free weights or whatever, you can mimic pretty much every gym exercise with bands. You can also do more functional exercises that you can't do with free weights. Beyond that, you can combine bands and free weights together so that you can fully customize that strength curve so that you're not totally just dependent on gravity. And that'll take a lot of stress off your joints. It'll allow you to put more emphasis on a certain range of a lift. You can also do like tons of athletic exercises because there's no mass on these bands. You can move extremely fast. So if you're doing like jump plyometric style training or fast athletic movements, you can add resistance with bands and not have to worry about impacting your joints and still practice those explosive athletic exercises. So the possibilities are just endless. And that's one of the reasons why we have this channel. We have tons of content on this channel. So I'm going to link a couple of playlists up in the on-screen video links here. So if you want to keep watching, want to keep learning, check out these on-screen video links. Furthermore, if you liked what you saw today, smash that like button. And if you need any of the bands or accessories shown today, head over to clenchfitness.com and we will hook you up. And thank you so much for watching.